In today's video, I am going to be showing you 5 unreleased 5-out basketball plays that I recorded many years ago that I have never published online. So I hope that these plays can help your team win more games. Let's get down and let's check these out. Really quickly, make sure to go check out my complete guide to the 5-out offense that is down in the description below. This play is called the flare screen or the flare 5-out. And what we're going to have is player 1 first setting a pass over to player 5. Once player 5 gets that ball, player 2 is going to set a screen on player 1, and player 1 is then going to have a cut quickly down towards the corner. Now this could be a skip pass out to player 1, and this could be a very good option. However, after this screen, player 2 is going to roll towards the basket, and he may also be open for a pass as well. If that's not open, player 1 is then going to be filling the wing and player 2 is going to be filling the corner. Player 5 will then have the option to pass to player 4 or 1. If, for example, he sets a pass over to player 1, we can then have player 4 set a screen for player 5, and player 5 can then, of course, cut towards the basket. He may be open for a pass, and player 4 is then going to be popping up towards the point. Player 3 is going to be going to the wing, and player 5, if he wasn't open, will be going out towards that corner. We can then set that flare once again with player 1 passing to player 4, getting a back screen or a screen from player 2 as flare screen. Player 1 then cutting towards that corner, and then we would have player 4 have the option to pass to player 1 or have player 2 cut towards the rim, and of course have that secondary option as well with player 2. So this play I call the skip screen. Basically what we are doing with the skip screen is, let's say for example player 1 passes to player 4. Instead of setting a screen away to player 5, instead he's going to set a screen over to player 3. When he goes and sets that screen, what he's going to then have happen is player 3 will be cutting across the court using that back screen. Player 4 could pass to player 3, and that could end up with a layup. If that's not open, at this time player 5 is going to be filling the top, player 1 is going to be filling the wing, and player 3 has two options. He can either fill out, or he can set a back screen away for player 2, and player 2 can then cut towards the rim. If that's the case, player 4 may be able to get the ball to player 2. If not, he's going to fill out towards the corner. Player 3 will fill out to the corner, and we are back in that 5-out. Now, player 4 is going to set a pass over to player 3, just as an example, and instead of setting a screen for player 5, he'll set a screen for player 1. At this time, player 1 will then cut towards the basket, and if he's open, player 3 can pass the ball to player 1 for that layup. If that's not open, player 5 is going to then fill out towards the wing. Player 4 can fill out towards the point. Player 2 will fill out to the wing, and then player 1 will fill out towards the corner. Player 3 can then pass to player 5, and we have to remember this is one big circle. So instead of setting a back screen to player 1, which would be one screen away, he's going to skip past player 1 and instead set a screen for player 2. Player 2 is going to use that screen, and player 5 could then, of course, pass to player 2 for that layup. That is an option. If he's not open, player 2 will fill out, player 1 will fill up, and player 3 will then fill out to the corner. So in this play, I call this the STS, which stands for Screen the Screener Corner to Point basketball play. So basically what a Screen the Screener play is basically, let's say this player screens for player 4, and then that player 4 would then screen for the ball. You're screening for the screener. And in this play, what we will have is player 1 passing to player 2, and then setting a pin down screen for player 5. Player 5 would then use that screen and then screen for player 2 who has the ball. Player 1 would then roll off of that screen. Once these screens are set, obviously player 5 has to wait for player 1 to set his screen, and then after that screen set, he's going to then roll towards the basket. Player 2 could pass the ball to player 1. That is an option that is there, but we're going to have player 4 rotate up, player 3 rotate up, and player 1 is going to need to get out of that location as fast as possible if he does not get the ball passed to him. Because now player 2 is going to be using player 5 as a screen. Player 5 is going to be rolling towards the basket. And what we are looking to have happen here is player 2 is going to then look to pass to player 5. Obviously, player 2 could shoot the ball himself as well. If player 5 gets that ball, he needs to be able to get it to that rim. Or, depending on whose defense is coming out, a lot of the times, player 1's defender will come and defend player 5 as well as player 5's man, or maybe the hedge or the player 2 switched off, his man switched off, whatever may happen. Sometimes, in most cases actually, he'll get double teamed in the post, in which case he can then kick that ball out to player 1 for a 3-point shot. And then we have also two other options here, because let's say, for example, coming off of this screen, let's say player 1 just rolled towards the basket, and then we have player 2's man here, player 4 and player 3's man, right? And player 2 comes off of that screen, and let's say they switch, right? Player 5 rolls towards the basket. He gets that ball. Player 1 is then going to, at this point, try and cut off that drive, and player 5 could then kick it out to player 1. Usually what you'll see is player 3 and 4, their defenders, will then, of course, go and try and cover that 3. That's the extra pass. Player 4 will then sometimes cover player 3 if he doesn't have the option to shoot, and then one more extra pass can get you an open 3. You're going to have 3 options for 3s on this specific play. This play is actually quite a fun play to actually run, and what we're going to have here is player 1, he's going to pass to one side or the other, but for argument's sake, he's going to pass to the right side. This can obviously be ran on both sides, and after he makes that pass, he's not going to cut towards the rim. Instead, after making that pass, he's going to go and set a screen for the opposite side corner. Player 2 is going to use that screen at that time. Once player 1 sets that screen and player 2 uses that screen, player 5 at this time is going to dribble up towards the point, and player 4 now is going to be setting that pin down screen. What we're trying to basically account for here is for now player 2 to be popping off of that pin down screen, that secondary pin down, where now he may be open for a 3-point shot. If he's open for a 3, he might as well take it. However, what we want to have now after that secondary pin down is a screen for player 1. Player 1 is going to come off of that screen towards that high post, and if player 2 was never open for a 3 or is not open for a 3, he wants to then pass to player 1, and player 4 is going to be posting up his man. Player 1 could drive and attack that side of the basket, and if there's a help side defender, player 1 could kick the ball out to player 3. He could score himself, or he could pass to player 4 for a layup. This play I like to call zone or zone high. There's a few different names that you can call this, but I like to call it zone high because we really focus on the high post. And what we're going to be looking to do in this demonstration anyways is run up against a 2-3 zone defense. We're going to start with the ball on the wing, which will then shift the defense like so. At this time, what we would like to see is player 4 doing a high cut across towards that elbow on the ball side. Now, if you find that player 1 can't get that ball into that high post, he just needs to take a step back and try to draw that defender outside of the 3-point line. If he gets that ball into that high post, that's going to draw player 5 up, and most likely player 3's attention is going to be looking at the ball. When that happens, we want player 2 to cut back door, and we should have a high to low post pass, especially with player 5 being drawn up to that high post because player 5 in a 2-3 covers the entire key. That player 2 should be wide open for that layup. So basically, it's a quick pass into that high post, player 2 cuts, and then player 4 would then pass to player 2 underneath the basket. We can then have player 5 trail out to this side because player 2 red will most likely be looking to also try to guard that high post. With player 2 underneath the basket, that's going to be really collapsing the defense, where player 4 could kick that ball out to player 5, and player 5 could take a 3-point shot as well. Obviously, if none of this works, player 1 can go up top, player 4 then fills back out, player 2 goes out, and of course the defense gets reset, and we can run this play once again, passing to the wing. Let's say we'll go to this side this time, goes and passes to player 5.
At this time, the defense will most likely be shifted like this. Player 4 will again do a high cut across towards that high post. We'll have that entry pass into that high post that'll draw up that defender. Weak side cuts baseline, and it should be an easy high to low post pass once again to get that layup.
I hope that you have enjoyed these 5 unreleased 5-out basketball plays. Make sure, if you are a basketball coach, to check out my complete guide to the 5-out basketball offense if you're looking to be able to run this offense with your team. Anyways, hit that like button and subscribe, and I will see you guys again in my next video.